Hi everybody, and welcome to Love Speaks Love. I'm Denise, your host, and my beautiful guest today is the wonderful Kristi Rue. And Kristi Rue has been a practitioner of healing for a long time, consciously and unconsciously. So I'm going to bring her on in a second. And just to say a little bit about, excuse me, about Love Speaks Love. It's an online conversation. And it's about speaking heart to heart and sharing experiences, sharing wisdom as well. And one thing that we're going to do today is actually share some practical stuff as well, so you can get a feel of what Kristi does. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Kristi in. Hi, hi, hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good, but nervous.
No.
But of course, I'm very good.
All right, I'm just going to turn my phone down, make sure that is down. Yep. So I'm going to just start with a little heart connection. I'm pretty sure we are live, but I'm just going to open my page first. Yeah. Okay, so if we are in a position to do so, and if you feel to, I encourage you to close your eyes and take a few long and slow deep breaths. Breathing in love and breathing out gratitude. And bringing your awareness to your heart space in the center of your chest. And feeling the love that we're breathing out, I'm visualizing this as a beautiful golden web of light. Connecting my heart to Kristi's and connecting our hearts to all of the viewers watching now and on the replay and on YouTube. And connecting our hearts to the heart of Gaia, to the heart of the sun, and to the heart of Creator. And visualizing that beautiful web of energy all around the globe. And taking a few more long and slow deep breaths, breathing in love, breathing out gratitude. And when we're ready, just moving our bodies, rolling our shoulders, and opening our eyes whenever we're ready. Always so hard to open my eyes when I do that.
And that was lovely. Thank you. That was lovely.
And I just really enjoy to do that because it feels really important to me on the planet at the moment that we are in our heart space as much as we can, speaking from our heart, doing everything from our heart, making our decisions from our heart. And the more we can do that and just be present in our heart space, the easier it is. So, and that's also, you know, partly why I wanted to do Love Speaks Love as well. So, Kristi, you have, I'll say first of all that we connected last week and you shared some of the work that you do with me in terms of you worked a little bit on me and especially on my throat. I did a sound journey the following day and it was actually reflected back to me that there was a difference in my throat, and I could definitely feel it. Before everybody arrived, I really let loose with my singing as well. and let loose more when they were there, but particularly more before everyone arrived. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for that and give you that feedback.
Oh, thank you so much for that. That's wonderful. You know, while we're while we were doing the actual work, um, the guidance is given to me to help you come into a realization, you know, of your own truth within, and that's basically what we did. I feel it's very, very important for people to understand that they know themselves, and
Yeah.
when you know yourself and you actually see and hear and understand what you've put within your field, it's then your choice to remove it if you choose to. When I work with people, that's my greatest joy, especially. Thank you. When you tell me that, it really makes me happy, because that's my greatest joy, is to see people move out of that, or move through that, or past that, and truly understand that there is like so much more to experience, that they're ready for it, and they shifted themselves. Basically, what I did was held them in a vibration of clarity and understanding, and guided them into their own truth so that they could see what it was they needed to see to move into that next level for themselves.
Beautiful. And I know you've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and I know you've not really, you know, a lot of us that are kind of coming out at the moment and stepping up and being seen haven't in the
No.
past. And it's not hugely comfortable for us. It's not our natural way of being, to be in the spotlight.
Right.
So I honor you for all the work that you've been doing. And also to say that I am deeply honored that you accepted this as your first one to kind of come out a bit more publicly. And yeah, I'm very grateful for that, and thank you for that. And I'm sure this will be the first of many. So yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it very much. You know, when we talked last week, and you know, you asked me, so what have I been doing for the last, what, you know, 5 years or so? Honestly, my honest answer is I've been observing. I've been observing. I've been observing myself. I've been observing other people. I've been observing, you know, what we would consider the spiritual leaders, to understand my own understanding, so that I could find my own specific way of doing things. And I kept trying different things, working with different people. And then I just suddenly kind of came into this understanding that we're all saying the same thing. You know, everyone has the same information. We all look different. You know, we all come from different backgrounds. We all come from different understandings, but within, we all have that same information. And that same information is, how do you walk? How do you walk in this world and be of the highest frequency that you can attain in that very moment, and bring that in to understand in your own life without going outside of yourself, to find it somewhere else, in someone else, through someone else. And I really feel like this journey for me has truly been about understanding me, so that once I was ready to step into, you know, this spotlight, it's helping other people understand themselves, so that they can step into their own spotlight, whatever they choose it to be. You know, not everybody is meant to get on a Facebook Live, and we all know this, right? For a while, I thought that was me too. You know, I basically thought, you know, I serve so much better behind the scenes. You know, that's my role. I can, like, you know, zip through all kinds of stuff and help people as they come through. And then I started to realize, when I started to watch other people, and really started to start thinking about this, I was like, oh, I know this, right? I know this. But my twist was a little bit different, because it's not just about knowing it, right? It's about bringing it in and living it, and being able to step forward and be that person to say, hey, you know, this is me. This is my knowledge. This is my understanding. What's yours? Because we all hold keys. We all hold the the perspective that perhaps somebody else needs, to actually step into that frequency and that shift and that next level. So it's actually quite fun for me to watch it unravel. It's actually quite fun, and it gives me so much joy when I hear, how people have moved forward, and the experiences that they've had, to be able to do that, after working with them. It just makes me so happy.
And would you say, I can't remember if this was a conversation with you, that you're a bit of a connector as well, kind of like bringing people together?
Yeah, actually I am. And it's funny, I think we all are, in some ways. We're all connectors. People come into our lives on purpose. And sometimes they just come into our lives to connect them to someone else. My biggest thing, honestly, is, and I went through quite a few years of this, where, in this world, in this, in this field that we are in, there's still a lot of people within the frame of mind that, whether they want to admit it or not, are still within that competitive stage.
Mm-hmm.
They have to hold their clients tight. They have to be the one to speak. They have to say, this is what I know, you need to follow me. And honestly, if someone comes to me and I know that they would benefit from listening to so-and-so or getting in contact with so-and-so, I'm the first one to say, you know what, this person would help you tremendously. And the reason I do that is because I truly feel it's not about what I want or what I need. I will get that because I trust that it's going to come, and I know it's going to be there for me. But to see someone else resonate with, someone who that they can talk to, who they can listen to, who they can actually understand, is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Because people will start to watch and follow or speak to or work with the people that resonate with them the most in that moment. And within that, they have to understand that that is perfect for them, because they are actually getting what they need to trust in themselves, believe in themselves, know that they have that information. And then when it's no longer needed, or they feel, they're actually drawn to something else, then it's time for them to step away and go and be with someone else. We're totally meant to do this together on such a huge grand scale, right? In retrospect, it's a small community, but when you look at it, it's actually it's a big community too, isn't it? Because there are so many people coming into this awareness, this conscious awareness at any given moment. And you have to really truly be open to the fact that they are perfect where they are, and guide them, help them, lead them in the direction that they possibly need, or the person they need to speak to or work with, so that they can find themselves and they can be within that frequency that we're all hoping the entire planet will get into at one point, right? The understanding, that conscious awareness.
And you raise a good point there as well, that kind of leads to sometimes when we do the healing work that we do, we can become a little bit of a crux for somebody as well.
Yeah.
And that can be, I guess, encouraged by the person doing the healing modality as well. And that's not actually what we want. We don't want people to be relying on us. We actually want people to empower themselves. And I think sometimes you hear it said about treatments being disempowering. And I don't think that is true in a general sense, because what we are aiming to do is to empower people so that they can start to take control of their own lives and start to take control of their own healing. But sometimes, especially in the beginning, they just need that little bit of a leg up. They just need that little bit of a guidance. And, I can do a lot of work on myself, but sometimes it's really helpful, like it was with you stepping in, to actually have someone else just to allow you to receive and to give you those little tweaks that you maybe could do yourself, but it just might be a lot easier for someone else to help you with it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Everybody goes through that when they first start working, as what we would call a healer or a teacher, within that mind frame of keep the people coming back, because that's actually where we find our value. When someone comes back, people ask me all the time, well, okay, when do I need to come back? And I look at them and I smile and I'm like, when you want to, right? When you feel you would like to experience something different, then come back. How I feel about it is when I'm with someone, whether it is on a Zoom call, because this age of digital, we can reach so many more people, but also in person, because I do in person as well if they're here, in my region. What I try to do is I try to work with them in a way that empowers them to understand that they have everything that they need already. And they already understand what they need. They just need to have that perception dial just turn just a tiny bit, so that they can actually tune into that higher frequency and their own understanding and their own truths. When I first started doing this and being taught, the modality, I guess you would say, of Reiki, there was a time where I was actually, I went into a real resistance, probably about a year after I did, a ton of classes. And I was sitting there looking and at, okay, you have your manuals, you have your step 1, you have your step 2, you have your step 3. And I actually got upset one day and I said to myself, I choose to unlearn everything that I thought I learned. And then I thought, wait a minute, no, that's not going to do me any good. I said, nope, this is right. I choose to unlearn everything that I thought I learned, so that I can actually work with people on my own inner knowing, rather than what a manual says to do, step 1, step 2, step 3. And what a manual would say, if you feel this, this is what this means. And the reason I chose to do that at that time was because I understood there was so much more than what could possibly be put in a manual or a one-day class. It was a true understanding of, you have always had this. This has always been your birthright. You have always done this and never questioned it. Well, you may have questioned it, right? But in your heart that you will be guided to understand exactly what you need to understand at any given moment. And that's what I try to help people understand and come into for themselves, is the ability to trust themselves and the ability to know that they're safe within this understanding. It was funny because this morning I actually was sitting there thinking about this call today, and this and it just out of the blue just popped in, and it was like I had started thinking about the Wizard of Oz, and I saw the curtain. And in this curtain, I saw the little man sitting behind the curtain, running all the dials, right? And then the voice booming over the loudspeaker saying, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Right? And I thought, oh, that's it, right? That is what we have lived our entire life doing. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. That inner voice that says, I think you should go left. Nope, I know where I'm going and I'm going right. Right? Or that inner voice that says, time to step up. And you think, oh, I can't do that. That's way too scary. What if I'm rejected? What if they don't like me? But those inner thoughts, those inner voices, that's what each individual person truly has to step into and trust and listen to. Not looking outside of themselves, but looking inside of themselves. And that empowerment that I like to help people understand is, this is your birthright. This is every person on this planet has these abilities. This isn't any different than going to the grocery store and choosing which cereal you want to buy, right? You get to choose what you want to have for breakfast in the morning. If you want cereal, you get to choose what type of cereal. So when you start to understand that this is not a scary thing, but it is a natural progression of yourself, of your inner understanding of who you are, it actually becomes much, much easier to breathe. And that's my goal, is helping people understand that and moving into that. You know, you have these wonderful attributes. So let's start using them, right? Let's start playing with them. Let's start having fun with them. You know, isn't that what life is supposed to be about? Having fun?
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you say about, and it's the same with me really, for wanting to put people in the heart space. It's the same thing. It's like making your decision from your heart rather than your head. And, you know, some people might find that that decision is made in their gut. That might be where they feel things. But it's kind of the same thing, really. It's that sense of knowing, really.
Yeah.
And when I've taught people Reiki, that's always what I say. It's like, I'm telling you this is a place to start from, but use your intuition. Don't rigidly follow. You know, I ask you to use them as guidelines only, really, and not rigidly follow them, but just allow yourself. You know, if you get an inner knowing, and it might not even be a voice in your head or a feeling in your body, but you just have a feeling to move your hands just slightly to the left or to the right, and you try it, and then you feel the energy flowing so much more. So you start to trust that. And for me, I haven't really recognized this before, but I think it was a really strong way of my intuition getting so much more deep and strong, actually doing things in treatments and feeling into that guidance, seeing the guidance, hearing the guidance, knowing the guidance, whatever way that it was. And you become much more trusting, therefore, when it's relating to other things and relating to yourself as well.
I agree with you completely. It was so when I finally realized what I had been doing all of my life, which was energy work, and I realized that there was a name to it. I was like, whoa, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. Right. So I found the first teacher that popped up, and I went to this teacher. And you have to understand, I am very grateful for every teacher, because every teacher taught me a little bit more about myself, right, and what I was capable of. And I found the one teacher, and she was amazing. She was wonderful, and she was so kind and so loving, and just a blessing, right? And then the second teacher came in, and the second teacher really made me look at myself like, hold on a minute. How am I believing in myself with this? And I had to look at my own thought patterns within the second teacher, which is a huge gift, right? Huge gift. And then the third teacher actually took me into another level where she made me answer my own questions. She made me come through and start to realize that intuitive side of me was very, very strong, right? Even if at the time there was still that self-doubt, right? But in a way that she was both soft and kind, but also stern and demanding, right? Which we truly need, you know, especially when we're first originally going through that type of thing. But each time I had the different teachers, I realized there's more. And then I realized, you know what, this was truly my doorway. This was my path. I had to do this to understand what I had been doing, so that I could gain some kind of semblance through the mind and answer questions that I had been asking myself for years. You know, that kind of brings me into, so what you said about, you know, bringing people into the heart space. And this is actually something that I work with people who tell me all the time, well, I can't stop the monkey mind. You know, I can't get out of the head. I can't, you know, I keep going back to the same situations. I keep going back to the same details. I can't remove myself from it. And one of the things I like to explain to people is the mind was never supposed to run your life, ever. The mind, consider it a laptop, information in and information out. The mind can only process what it has already experienced and stored as a memory. When something new comes along and you've never experienced it, the mind just stops and says, oh, okay, my job. So I'll go in, I'm going to pull these files. Oh, yep. Okay, so we know what this is because you experienced this before. So here it is, and we know how this feels, and this doesn't feel good. So we don't want you there. So we're going to have a panic attack and make you run. Yeah. When you start to see the function of the brain, of the mind, as an amazing super tool to hold your memories, to help you actually move into a space of understanding when you don't understand, and release the job of controlling your life from the mind and actually put it down into your heart, because that is the true language of every human on this planet. When you go to a different country and they don't speak, or you don't speak their language, right? You're walking into a community of people who don't know what you're saying and you don't know what they're saying. You cannot actually understand the words. But what you can do is you can stand back and you can see that if they look all hunched over and they have this look on their face like they just desperately need help, you're speaking that true language. And that's the language of the heart. That is the one language every human on this planet knows, as well as animals. If you walk up to someone and you see and you feel and you see their body tension in their face and they're scared, you know that they're afraid. And it doesn't make any difference what the details of why they're afraid, but you know that they're afraid because they're actually experiencing the emotion that you don't have to be told what it is. And for me, this is really important for people to understand, because sometimes we may not understand in words what someone is saying to us or trying to express, but when we go into our heart, we can actually find the truth within, because we are speaking the exact same language. And that's the language of emotion. That's the language of feeling. That's the language of the inner feeling of who we are. And for me, that's amazing. That takes so much understanding and compassion to do that, because you're putting yourself and your thoughts and your patterns and your belief systems aside, because it's not about your perception and it's not about what you think. It's about what the person is actually experiencing in that moment, which is the emotion, which is actually larger than the storyline that they've told themselves.
I love that. And it's, a lot of us have lost touch with our bodies and lost touch with connecting with our bodies. And you're right, we can feel a lot of everyone else's emotions or whatever in our own bodies. You know, when we have that sudden change inside and we suddenly feel different, it's like, okay, I've no reason to feel this way all of a sudden. Maybe this isn't mine. Maybe this belongs to someone else. Yeah,
absolutely. I agree with you.
And I think just to mention claircognizance as well, because I found my intuition a little bit difficult to trust initially, because I'm primarily claircognizant, so it drops in as a thought.
Yeah.
And I used to think, you know, if I could see it in front of me or with my eyes closed, if it was more clairvoyant or more clairaudient where I heard messages, that perhaps would be easier. Instead, it drops in as a thought, but then why that thought as opposed to something else? And a lot of people who are claircognizant, they just know. They may not see it, they may not hear it, but they just know. And I think it comes with practice, really, that you kind of challenge that more and more to really, it's like a muscle, isn't it, our intuition. So practicing with it. And it doesn't matter if you feel you get it wrong or whatever. And also the difference between fear and what you're feeling in your body. So you might have a reaction in your solar plexus. Is that a no, or is that the fear? And I think there's no easy answer to that, because it's part of our learning to understand the difference. And again, I think that just comes with practice.
I agree with you. You know, it's funny so like I said, I've spent quite a few years in observation in pretty much so many different circumstances. And there was a time where someone would say to me, how do you do this? And I'd be like, okay, this is how I do it. It doesn't work like this, this, and this, like you would see on perhaps, television or with, this big speaker or that big speaker. And then I kind of stop and sat back and think, we all have every single ability and we get to choose what we do. And as long as I keep telling myself that I can't do something, I'm not going to do it. Right. So I started to actually start, and I kind of put in my bio that, I have these amazing life conversations with myself in my head constantly. Right. So what I did was I put myself into this position and I thought to myself, I think it would be really cool right now to experience what it would feel like to audibly hear, right? Because I'm like you. My strongest senses are claircognizance as well as clairsentience. But I actually said, you know what? I want to experience what it would feel like to hear, to actually audibly hear, right? And then I did. And then I was like, oh yeah, I don't know if I want to do that again anytime soon. Right? And then I thought to myself, and these are over the years, you have to understand. This wasn't like just one day I just did all these things, right? This is over the years as I started to realize, what do I want to play with? What do I feel most comfortable with? Just recently, probably a couple months ago, and I had some beautiful beings in front of me that actually helped me do this. And I felt safe enough to do it with them, right? And this was I was like, I want to see and experience what it would feel like to be a trans channel, right? And I did it. And I was like, oh, I don't think I want to do that again. It's like, no, that's okay. That's awesome. I'm really glad I did it. That was really fun to play with. But I think I'm okay with being that conscious channel, right? With getting the information as I need it, with being within and actually putting it out for whoever needs to hear it at that time, right? But that's what this is about. This is about playing with all of that and understanding when you get that gut feeling. Is that gut feeling about, should I stop? This doesn't feel right, right? Follow your body, follow your heart, follow your emotions, ask yourself, and stay out of this. Because this can't explain, what your stomach is telling you. But your stomach is actually a very, very large part of your intuition. Your stomach actually has its own intuitive brain. Yeah. And as that comes online, then it's your responsibility if it starts to show you, it's your responsibility then to say, hey, what's going on? Is this something I want to play with? Right? Mm-hmm. Would I rather feel it in my heart? Would I rather, feel it in my body? What is the best way for me to play with this, to become comfortable with this? That's, for me, that's huge. That's like that gold. Because when you're doing something that you're not comfortable with, you go into resistance. And that's not what we're here for. We're not here to go into resistance. We're here to know ourselves. And we're here to actually play with what comes through and what we're able to do on a very large, grand scale, even more than what we could possibly imagine. Right? So as I have a candle burning here, right? Sitting next to my computer. And if I get a message that pops up on my screen, a red warning sign that says, hot, 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 run, run, right? I can actually look around and look at my environment, really stop for a minute and truly understand why the computer, the brain, is telling me that there's a caution sign, right? There was actually actually it was probably about a week ago, and I get a lot of information during my dream time. I'm one of these, what you would call lucid dreamers. really in-depth stuff when I dream. I don't always remember it, right? I just know something big happened, but I don't always know what the details are. But I was actually taken through an understanding, and this is like a deep understanding. This understanding was on fear. And fear was never, ever implemented within the human experience to debilitate us, to control us, to choose what was right or wrong. Fear was always implemented as a sensory for us to know, to stop and take a look at what was going on, readjust, realign, understand what was in our environment, and then make the decision. It was never meant to be put into our field of awareness and our existence as I'm in fear, I can't do this. I won't do this. Right? It was there as a tool. So if a tiger was standing in front of you, licking its chops, that fear, that initial fear, that adrenaline that rushes through your body, actually help the body move you out of the situation.
Yeah.
Because it's an instant recognition that maybe perhaps where you're in, you need to re-examine and go somewhere else. Right? It was never made to stop you in a frozen aspect and keep you within the space of that fear.
I loved what you said about the tiger, and I found that really interesting because when you were starting to talk about that, I was like, yeah, if a tiger's in front of you, I just thought that was funny that you said tiger. And just to rewind a little, and I really love what you say about fear there as well. It kind of really takes the edge off it in that. I was just wanting to share something about clairaudience as well. So for me, I don't know why, clairvoyance took a bit to kick in and clairaudience as well, but it was like I was asking questions, but then putting earmuffs on and not actually wanting to hear the answers. And in some ways, I'm really grateful for that now, because feeling into my body was a really important tool. And it's almost like once I'd kind of got used to that and was able to work with that, then the clairvoyance and the clairaudience came online much more. Yeah. But it's always changing. And clairaudience, it was as though I heard a voice, and it would come here behind my right ear. I know that looks like left ear on the screen, but it was behind my right ear that I would kind of hear the voice. That, coincidentally or not, is my phone ear. So I think that probably has something to do with it as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now it's like I hear it all around me. And it's almost like I can't differentiate between my senses. I think we move into that they all kind of become one. They're all so kind of fused together. That's not quite the right word, but I can't just feel another. That they're so weaved together now, that they do become one. It's like you feel it everywhere, all at the same time.
I agree with you, and it's funny that you brought this up, because I actually just kind of went into a conversation just recently with someone very dear to me, and this was about surrendering to trust yourself. And when you are in a space where you trust, right, you actually personally trusted that voice that you heard in your phone ear, right, and you became familiar with it, and you were no longer in resistance with it. But at that time, that's what you were agreeing to. That is what you believed at that time you could handle, right? Then when you know and you trust it, it grows.
Yeah.
Right? It changes. And each individual sense, because we can do everything. There's not one single thing that we cannot do if we do not choose to put it aside and say, I can't do it. We can do all of it. You can have every every type of gift you can imagine, right? You already do. But it's understanding where you're in resistance. And then when you become in resistance to it, and you start to understand it, you start to trust it, and you surrender into it, and you just know it's part of your life, just like breathing, right? Then it can grow and it become bigger, and it can actually be more in tune with you because it is you. Removing that resistance level of this is what I do and how I do it. If I could tell everybody right now, personally, stop with that whole statement. Stop. Don't ever come back and tell somebody, this is what I do and how I do it. Because what you're doing is you're capping, you're limiting yourself into a very small box, right? But that box wants to get huge, and it wants to become a circle, and then it wants to become a triangle, right? And it wants to become universal. And when you start understanding that you allow this stuff to happen and move into it and move with it and flow with it, that's actually when you see the most progress. I was actually taken through, it's kind of funny to explain it this way, but I like to call them simulations. Simulations of, we're going to teach you how to do something, and then we want you to do it. Okay. The first one that I really had a hard time with was simplicity. Because, and this goes along with striving, right?
Yeah.
We have spent our entire lives trying to be the best, at the top, right? Have the most, have the best words for people, have everything that we see outside of us be us, that we admire in someone else. And we work so hard, right? Constantly striving, setting goals, making plans, checking date books, scheduling all of these things to try to make something happen. When we don't have to strive to do anything. It's already laid out. It's already there. It's already perfectly aligned with what you need to experience in that moment, right? Not 2 hours from now, but right now. And it's within that simplicity of understanding that right now, I only have to focus on right now, right? All I have to do is step back and say, here I am, right? Here I am. What do I get to play with next? What's coming up that I see, whether it's good or bad in our own perception, and just really look at it. And when you look at something and you step back and you put yourself into that observer status, you can actually see if this is something you need to work on, or if this is something that's coming up in your field for you to understand that you have to go back down into that simplistic state where all you truly have to do is breathe. That's the only thing you are required to do. Everything else is a choice, right? So when you step back and you become observer and you step back into that simplistic status, where you take it out of your mind, put it into your heart, and say, show me the truth of it, and then watch. What you're doing is you're taking away the strife that it has been ingrained in us. It has been programmed into us. You have to put on so many videos on your website in so many days in order to keep people's attention. No, you don't. Right? You can if you choose to, if that makes you feel good, if that's what you feel like your alignment with, but you don't have to do anything. You can step back and say, you know what? Right now, I want to breathe. That's all I want to do. And then breathe. Because guess what? We're already into that next moment. So now what do you choose? Oh, I think I'm going to choose another breath.
Yeah, nice.
Right?
I love what you said earlier as well about not restricting things. That the square wants to become a circle and a triangle. And I feel quite strongly that that the senses that we have now are just the tip of the iceberg. And as we progress forward, there are going to be so many more senses that we can't even really imagine. Some dear brothers and sisters that I do work with online, we were in the process of an activation one time, and it really felt like we were activating gills here, like dragons. And it kind of felt like this was a new sensory organ that was kind of developing. And it was really interesting because, you know, none of us had kind of really thought about this. It just dropped in at the time when we could feel it. But these gills, yeah, I think that's one of them. And I couldn't have imagined that.
Right.
And I'm really intrigued as to where we're going.
Yeah. I totally understand that. When you step into the understanding that you know nothing, right? That you only know what you know in this very moment, but it's not solid. It's not firm, right? And that give up the structured idea that you already know everything there is to know about a certain situation, right? Or a certain modality or a certain circumstance or a certain way of being. And when you stay within that moment and you just open yourself up to possibilities, because there is nothing that is not possible. Right? And there are so many things that your mind cannot possibly even fathom would be possible.
Yeah.
So we can't process something, you know, we can't think of something that it has no reference point to.
Yeah.
Right? So it's funny, I do riddles with my husband and my son, my youngest son, constantly, you know, little riddles to try to get them to think outside the box and have them understand that maybe what they hear is subject to an old belief system or an understanding. And I don't know, so I'm not going to do the riddle, but there's one of them that basically says like there's 30 cows. There's 30 cows in the field and 28 chickens. How many didn't? And they both sat back and they looked at me like, what? And I just sit and laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh, right? And they're like, didn't what? Didn't what? And I'm like, think about it. Right? In our minds, we're picturing 30 cows and 20 chickens. And who didn't? Or 28 chickens. And who didn't? Didn't what? Right? What's the answer to that question? So 30 cows in a field and 28 chickens. How many didn't? So think about it. 8, the number 8, right? So they're thinking 28 instead of 8 as in A-T-E. But cows can't eat chickens. They don't eat chickens. So how would the mind actually process 30 cows eating 28 chickens? Right? The answer is 10, of course, right? 30 cows. Do you understand? We have a certain way, a belief system, an understanding of what is possible and what is not possible. And that is how our mind registers processing information. And when we don't have understanding of what is possible, it takes us a while, doesn't it? And those senses that are coming in, like you said, those senses coming in, they're not for us to define and say, this is what it was, right? We can go in and say, this is my perception of what it was. And say, okay, I'm ready for this. I don't know what you do, but this is great. This is fun. Let's see how this works. Let's see how we can play with that and really surrender into understanding that all of these things that we really have no clue about are really truly coming online, right? So telepathy, huge.
Yeah.
Right? So many people are now experiencing telepathy where, even 5 years ago, somebody would say telepathy and they'd be like, oh, I'd love to learn how to do that. Well, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
It's an innate sense. It's an innate sense that just develops over time. And it's funny. I kind of want to talk about this because it really seems to be a hot topic these days. Telepathy, kind of like it used to be very, very well known, and now nobody does it. So it's kind of like one of those things that people are just like, oh, that'd be really cool, but they're already doing it, right? So when I noticed when mine really first started to kick in, it would only be when the emotion was really, really high, and the other person was actually saying something that was very emotion driven and not very nice. So my husband and I were having this argument, and I walked out of the room, and I clearly heard him call me a very nasty name. And I turned around and reeled on him. And I said, don't you ever say that to me again. And he looked at me like, I don't think I just said that out loud. Did I say that out loud? Right? And I looked at him, I said, I don't care if you said it out loud or not, because it was very clear that emotion, right? That frequency that we were both in at that point was very, very, very high. Not in a good way, but it was still a very high frequency because the emotion was very high, right? But that communication in that frequency is very clear, and you understand that. And I said to him, I don't care if you said it out loud or not. I heard it, and that's what matters, right? Now we're actually into, if we're sitting watching TV and I have the remotes, and I just pick the remote up and give it to him. He goes, you're doing it again, right? Because he wants the remote. He wants to turn the channel. It's a very natural progression, right? So what it looks like at first isn't always what it's going to stay like. It's going to move into other things. It's actually going to progress. And what you think is small, like handing the remote to someone, actually means that you're progressing, because it doesn't have to be within the state of anger or a very high emotional stance. It is something that is now just happening on a regular basis, right? In your everyday life. And that's when you know, hey, there's really something to these senses, because I don't have to think about it anymore. I am just now doing it in my everyday life, not outside of myself, but within myself.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Now, just looking at the time, I would love for you to share something, whatever you feel. Yeah, I'll hand it over to you at this point to see what it is that you're feeling to do.
Yeah. So about how many people do we have on the live conversation?
There are 12 at the moment.
Okay. So let's go ahead. And I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a little inner journey energetically. Right? And this is, of course, good for this, the people who are here with us physically now, but also anyone who comes in later. Yeah. All right. And this inner journey is a journey to ask questions to know yourself.
Nice.
Okay.
And just to say as well, if we go over time, that's don't feel you need to keep looking at the time.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and start with everyone placing their hands on their hearts. And of course, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to, right? And this is an experience within for you to hear that inner voice, for you to see what you need to see, for you to feel what you need to feel, right? This is your own truth, your own knowing, your own understanding. And if you wish to join us, I would love to have you, right? So go ahead and place your hand on your heart and close your eyes. And we're going to start with just a few breaths. Okay. And within those breaths, we are actually going to be coming down. But on the in breath, and you can say it out loud or you can say it within. I want you to go ahead and say I with the in breath, and then am with the out breath. Long and slow. So let's go ahead with an in breath of I. Am. Feeling yourself sinking into your heart. and I am sinking in just a little bit deeper. You're feeling the heaviness into your hips, to your spine. And we're going to sink down one more time with an I and an am. Start to feel those toes tingling as you are grounded within your own space, within your own inner knowing, as this comes from within and not without. And continue to breathe naturally, easily, as you're guided, gently if you're guided to, stronger if that's what you're guided to do, and let your body move into a natural rhythm. Feeling the heart expand and open. Sensing your body, feeling where there's any pressure, any resistance. Breathe into that resistance. And continuing to breathe. And I want you to ask yourself, what is my heart's desire? What am I being shown? Don't worry about an answer. Don't worry about a vision. Experience whatever comes. What is the most important thing to know about me right now? And as you do this, I'm creating this space, this vibrational frequency around everyone now, as well as later. I'm holding within the vibration, the frequency of clarity. And whatever comes up, I just want you to see it, hear it, feel it. Don't go into judgment. As this is an understanding of the heart, not of the mind. Take note of what you're feeling physically in your body. Is your body speaking to you? Is your energy speaking to you? This is the way to self-mastery. and understanding within. Know who you are. Know what you are. And know how you serve. And as you're ready, you can go ahead and take some deeper breaths. Find your toes. Wiggle your toes. Bring yourself back into an awareness, conscious awareness of your surroundings, your physical body. And open your eyes when you're ready.
That was really beautiful energy. I could just feel everything. It was pretty slow before, but everything just slowed down even further, even further. And I very much felt the message of all is well. All is as it should be. And I'm in exactly the right place, doing exactly the right thing right now.
And what did it feel like when you got that?
Really, really beautiful. And it couldn't, like I was already in such a bliss state anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think it could really have blissed anymore. But really reassuring as well.
Yeah.
Just very, very very, very kind of comforting to know that, but yeah, the reassurance of that.
It takes you into that space of, oh, I am here.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing that I need to do right now, is there? Like, I'm perfect right where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
And
so glad.
breathe.
Yeah. Yes, and just breathe. That's right. That's
Which
right.
fortunately we don't even have to try to do. Our body does that for us automatically. So there we are. We don't need to do anything.
That's right. It's funny because people are like, they go to bed and they can't shut down their mind because they can't stop thinking about all the things that they think they have to do, right? And I tell them very simply, I'm like, so when you go to bed at night, do you worry and remind yourself over and over and over, okay, body, just breathe through the night. Just keep breathing through the night. That's all I want you to do is breathe through the night. I'm like, well, no, it just happens. I'm like, there's some gold in that, isn't there? Right?
Do you have anything coming up, or would you like to share how people can get hold of you, and perhaps a little more about the sessions that you whatever you feel to share about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So people can actually go ahead and email me, or they can contact me on Facebook. I do not have an active website at this time. I really haven't been led to think that I needed a website. So we'll kind of see how that goes in the future. I don't really have any events coming up. I do have some plans coming in the future. And these plans in the future are basically co-creating with other beautiful, beautiful people that have been amazing teachers to me as well, right? Because everybody gives us, what we personally need within that moment to see what we need to see. But creating a community of self-masters.
Nice.
And I really think that this is going to be very, very, very big, because the one thing that people are missing right now is that they see others as masters, but they don't see themselves as the masters. So really helping them, guide them into an understanding that they are already that master, and helping them step up and move forward, within themselves. So that's coming. I have not formed it at this point, but I've definitely talked to quite a few people about it. So that is going to be coming. I also do sessions, via Zoom, via internet. So, location is not important. If you are within, my viewable, driving distance, I guess you would say, come see me, come spend some time with me. I would love that. And yeah, you can go ahead and book. You can either book on my Facebook page or you can just email me and then we'll set up a time. Either one. It's very important though to let me know if it's distance or if it is going to be local and in person. That's pretty important. What I do for, I kind of explain to people, basically what I do, but I do what I call, and this is my own word for it. This is my own name. This is my own understanding of what this is. And what I do is I use the Trinity method. And it's funny, because for a long time, I really struggled with trying to identify what it was that I do. And then one day it just kind of finally came to me. I understood it. So to explain it in a nutshell, when I ask permission to connect with you, and this is during session, okay? When I ask for permission to connect with you, we are basically joining unity between the two of us. So instead of being separate, so Denise is there and Kristi's here, connecting with you allows us to become one. And within that one, I connect with you on 3 levels, and that's why I call it the Trinity. So think of it like a triangle. So the bottom level is the physical. Basically, the in between is the emotional, and the top level is the soul guidance, the guidance in order to help you with whatever's going on at that moment, for belief systems, physically, emotionally, mentally. Doesn't really make any difference because it is perfectly laid out as soon as you go ahead and agree to start working with me. Within that connection, what happens is I actually can feel you physically. I can feel what you're feeling physically. So I can feel the original status of your energy field. I can sense where the energy is running, where the energy is not running. And as I put my attention on myself, because I'm not putting my attention on you, I'm putting the attention on myself, I am healing it within, right? So, and when I say that, I am applying a frequency within my own physical body that then helps you, because then it is also affecting, that frequency is affecting your physical body. And it's your choice to go ahead and step into it and align with that frequency, because that is your frequency as well. And then move from there. But it is basically working on that level. So the physical always comes in first. So I can tell physically where you hurt, all those physical things within your physical body. And then the emotional side comes in. And when I say that, it is not separate, it is actually in conjunction with the physical body. Okay. The belief systems is around the emotional field, right? And then the guidance comes in to help you guide to see what you need to see. I don't tell you anything, right? I suppose I clarify things for you, but I help guide you into seeing clearly by asking questions and moving you into that own understanding, which is empowering for people, because that's the state that they need to be in to shift through, is that empowerment state, that they know that they can do this, that this is them. So that's kind of how I work with people.
Yeah, beautiful, beautifully explained. And that really does, having received what I received, you've really explained it beautifully. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Something that just dropped in actually when you said about the how did you phrase it, about self-mastery?
Yeah.
I did wonder if you I felt I was getting a nudge just to say this about the potential of you creating a Facebook group in regards to that.
Yes. And that's exactly what it's looking like. So it's a Facebook group, right? And this Facebook group will be have many facilitators. So, for instance, myself, you, people who have also shown interest, that have gone through that process and done that inner work so that they truly know themselves, right? And they feel confident in themselves. And they are able to step back and put themselves into an observer situation, and assist anyone who comes into that Facebook group by doing things like this, conversations, even if it's a one-on-one type of thing, group conversations, assistance with healings, and when I say healings, what I mean is facilitating, right? Facilitating an understanding within, but sharing what you have mastered to this point, so that it shows other people and what they resonate with, possibilities. And within this, I'm actually, this is huge for me, because I don't feel like money is a huge, we always get caught up in that money situation, right? Creating an abundance. But my creation of abundance really, truly, I believe, stems around helping other people. And helping other people means I'm taken care of and I don't have to worry about it. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, what I'll do is I'll put up like a PayPal type of thing for people to contribute to the group, to pay for anything that is like a specific type of fee, like for the Zoom coordination, things like that we would need to have. But then outside of that, giving these facilitators a place to actually grow themselves and stepping into that next shift for themselves, which is huge, because that's where people are going, and holding each other hand in hand as we do it. Mm-hmm. Not putting one person above the other one, but everyone having them stand side by side on a plateau and saying, welcome, come play with us, come join us, and let's see where this goes.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. There are some lovely, lovely comments. I'm not going to read them all out, but yeah, I just wanted you to know that there are some really beautiful comments here. And I wanted to thank everyone who's been with us on the live stream and who joins us on the replay and on YouTube as well. And if anybody feels to share this along, again, that's about paying it forward as well. If you found it helpful, please feel free to share. And most of all, thank you to you, Kristi. It's been a really, really lovely conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you said in the beginning you were nervous, but it didn't come across.
Oh, I definitely was. So I'm thankful.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Denise.
My absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop the Facebook Live. Again, just thank you to everybody who's joined us. And we will see you soon.
Blessings.